Hey, it's Chris from Line Punch Forge. It's been a little while since I made a video. The last couple videos I did were on the Paperclip Mandrels, and so far they've been received extremely well. I'd like to share some tips and tricks on exactly how to use them, maybe a little bit more effectively, and then talk about the new design that you hadn't seen in the other video. So before that, I'd like to welcome you to subscribe if you so feel inclined to do so. Check out lionpunchforge.com, and I'm going to start working on a little bracelet project. We're not going to finish it here, but we're going to use this as tips and tricks for the Paperclip Mandrel. Alright, so before we get going with our little tips and tricks, I wanted to share these guys. These are the new Angry Hedgehogs. So this is the artistically enhanced version of the Angry Hedgehog. There's another version of that. They have same connection, bronze and titanium and all that kind of fun stuff, only the artistically enhanced ones are artistically enhanced. So this is one of my favorites. This other one. And then this one, it actually belongs to Karen from We Will the Hammer, and I'm excited for her to see this. She asked for one with flowers on it, so we did a little flower arrangement on her solder pick, and a little twisty on the end. Should be a lot of fun. So anyway, these guys are on the website, Angry Hedgehog solder picks, and on to these guys. Zoom out. So the other Paperclip Mandrels that you saw in the first video were slightly different than these. They came in a set of 3, and instead of having a set of 3, I designed these guys to have 3 different steps. So if you look on the website, each step is this distance. So there's 3 different steps that are advertised. It's this flat portion. And then we have 3 different thicknesses. We have this one is 3 mil, 2.5 mil, and then I think 1.5 mil. I'll have to check. I know these are 0.6 of an inch. You got 0.100 of an inch and 0.125 of an inch. So each one has those 3 thicknesses, and then you have 3 different sizes. So 3 different options to choose from, and then 3 thicknesses on those options for a total of 9 mandrels. Now picking which size is going to be kind of up to you, but I'll give you some tips. When you're thinking about the width of each of your links, you're going to want to take into account the thickness of your metal. This is 12 gauge, so the thickness times 2 plus the thickness of your mandrel, and that's going to give you your approximate width of your jump ring or link or whatever you want to do. If you're doing oval jump rings, if you're doing links, bah. So for this one, I want to make a pretty a masculine looking paperclip chain bracelet. I want to keep my links relatively small, but as I'm choosing, say for example this one, my links as they wrap around are going to be more squarish round because this isn't quite wide enough. So we're going to take the small ones and we're going to take them out of the picture real quick. This one would work. I want them to be a little bit more delicate than that, so the large ones I want to do it more probably around the mediums. So in the mediums I have my 3 thicknesses, the 0.0 or 0.06 of an inch. This one is my 0.100 inch, and then this was my 125. Now when I take into account my links, I want to take into account the thickness of my mandrel and being able to get this next link linked into that chain that I'm making. So I think this one is I know what the distance is. It's 125. So 125. We're going to turn that around. And yes, this is 12 gauge wire. 12 gauge should work just fine. Although it looks like it could probably get away with this guy. And this one is the medium 2. So the 2 indicates the thickness, which in this case is 0.100 of an inch. This would be the medium, so it's a medium 2, M2. And I think I'm going to go with this guy. So now that I have those mandrels all picked out, and these things are great. I love how these things turned out. There's your mediums. There's your small. Let me show you all 3 sizes together. That'd be a cool picture. So here is your small, your medium, and your large. And all this does is take place of a round mandrel to create oval or paperclip links. So cool. I'm really pleased with how these turned out, and I'm pleased with how people are liking them. I've gotten a lot of cool feedback so far. Some cool pictures of projects, all that kind of stuff. So let's move on to some tips and tricks. All I'm doing right here is just checking the gauge. Yeah, so this is 10 gauge. This wire is 12 gauge, so I should be able to make some cool links with this. And I think I'm going to use the middle step, this one right here. And my links will be probably, like I said, the thickness of the metal times 2 plus the center of the mandrel. And that'll give you kind of the overall width of your link. If you want the height of your link, you'll do the same thing. Thickness of the metal times 2 plus this distance here. Whatever step you're going. Now, a lot of folks have gotten a hold of me and said, hey, I've got my coil on there. How do I get it off now that I'm done wrapping it? I snip my end because the wire will go into this little tip here. I snip my end, I go to pull it off, and it doesn't come off. That is really, really common with oval links and sometimes even round links. And I'm going to share one of my favorite tips. This actually came from Alan Revere, and it's super simple and does not cost a whole lot of money. So I'm going to prepare my stuff here. Okay, so I have a piece of graph paper, and I don't want to put too much on. I'm going to go around twice probably. Alright, here we go. So I'm going to wrap nice and tight. Piece of lined paper, graph paper, whatever you want to do, around my mandrel. And make sure I have it where I want it. Okay. And now I'm just going to add a little bit of tape. So I have my paper on there, and I cannot find my hole. So I'm going to use this guy right here, and I'm going to wrap it around by inserting my wire into that hole, and then I'm going to go over to my vise and I'm going to go ahead and wrap that around. The idea is, once we have all of the wire wrapped around the paper, I'm going to then anneal everything on the mandrel. The paper is going to burn away, and then you'll be able to slip your coil right off. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Let me move over to the vise, and I'll talk to you about how I get a nice tight wrap. Alright, so I have my piece of leather here. I've got my vise, I've got my mandrel, and I have my square wire. So the square wire is annealed. Like I said before, this is 12 gauge. So I'm going to take my piece of leather, I'm going to put it in my vise, nice and loose, and then I'm going to close my wire in my vise between the leather, and I want to be able to make it so I can still slide it out a little bit as I needed, but not so tight that I can't move it. Yeah, that looks about right. We'll keep going as we wind it, and we'll go ahead and see whether or not that's good enough. That's going to keep this wire nice and taut while we do our winding. So with square wire, it's kind of a pain because you have a little bit of an axis that you need to try and straighten out while you're wrapping. You want your links to be nice and tight, but you also want the orientation of your flats to be very similar. I have my coil wrapped. Now the next thing I like to do with thicker wire like this, so I'm doing a 12 gauge, is that once I have my wrap finished, I'm going to use my block here to finish the rest of it, just to get every bit of wire I want. And then, since a lot of the time thicker wire doesn't like to necessarily make an oval link, it likes to stay kind of round, I'm going to take my rawhide mallet on my flat block here, and I'm going to help it flatten out. That'll help me create more of a contour of the mandrel and create that oval versus okay. Now if I were to try and slide this off right now, I can tell it's nice and tight, but I also have that little nubbin that I need to cut off. So we're going to cut that off real quick. Alright, so we're going to snip off our little piece here. I can get it so you guys can see it. Okay, there's my little nubbin. Save him for later. And right now, this is working without me having to anneal it. But I'll probably get to the end there and have to. The other thing I can do is take a hammer and slide it off that way. But in this case, I'm going to slide it back and I'm going to anneal it with the paper on it, because if I take this off, this is still under a lot of tension. This is now work hardened. So when I take this off the coil, it's no longer going to have this hard form to conform to. It's going to twist like a spiral. So if I anneal this on the mandrel, when I pull it off, I'll have all of these lined up and they should stay relatively straight. So let's head over to the annealing block and we'll go ahead and do that. I grab my torch. are nice and annealed. So this is hot. Heat didn't transfer too much to other parts of the mandrel, but I should be able to just tip this off now. There it comes. You can see the dust falling out. There you go. There's your coil. There it is. Oval links. Now I saw them, and then after I saw them, I solder them and do whatever I'm going to do with them. I should have enough there for a bracelet, a men's bracelet. Alright, so to saw these, in my last video you saw kind of a rudimentary prototype for sawing jump rings. I did the same thing, only brought it into a production model, and you've got this guy. So same thing, drill chuck on here. It does not rotate, but it does hold round materials, and it slides right onto your GRS bench pin system and allows you to hold round things, especially split mandrels, which you can pick one about the internal dimension of your jump rings or your chain links and slide that onto your mandrel, and then use that split mandrel to guide your saw blade right down the center of your links. And when I do this, I like sawing on the top portion of my link, because when I link my chain together, every single solder joint or join is going to be hidden by the next link that is adjacent to it. So that's what I like to do. And yeah, good times. If you guys have questions, please post them down in the comments. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe and check out new tools, gemstones, and all sorts of fun stuff over at lionpunchforge.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.